there's this deliverance happening, and now youth are being raised up to receive deliverance, and not only that, to walk in it. And they're literally being born into a time where they're going to see the power of God casting demons out, healing the sick in a profound way. I mean, it's just it's on an increased level like we've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to behold it, they're going to know it, they're going to grow up in it. It's not going to be a question for them. They're going to know this deliverance power. They're going to get delivered. So what we're seeing is teenagers going through deliverance. They're getting free of demons. They're getting free of trauma. They're getting totally rocked, on fire for the Lord, filled with the Holy Spirit. And then they're turning around and they're ministering to their family. They're ministering to their school friends. They're seeing people get delivered. God is using young people to cast demons out, to see trauma healed. And they're humble. Young people have humility about their hearts, and God can use those that are humble. So I said, when I think about youth and deliverance, this is where it happened, where I started getting the download about, and you guys really need to listen, this is where I want you to listen, about how this is so biblical as far as timing goes, and the way we're literally repeating a cycle in biblical history right now.
Okay.
So when you look at the story of Moses, you know that he was raised up as a deliverer to Israel. We know that the people of God were enslaved by Egypt for 400 years. And then God says he heard the cry of his people, and he raised up a deliverer to send in to deliver his people. When we correlate this now, is there a similarity to now and why deliverance began in 2021? And I literally was like, I wonder how long America's been a nation, right? And so when Plymouth Rock was established, when the people landed on Plymouth Rock, when the Pilgrims came over, it was in the year 1621. And so when you do the math from 1621 to the year 2021, when deliverance began to become forefront ministry, it's 400 years.
Yeah, how about that?
Is this a coincidence? It can't be a coincidence. So I said, okay, so God, you are comparing us in a similar cycle like the time of Moses, when Moses grew up to become a deliverer to the people of Israel. But let's go back to before Moses became a deliverer. What was going on when Moses was born? So I just want to read just a few verses real quick on this part, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is in Exodus chapter 1, guys. And then the next part I'm going to read is in Exodus chapter 2. This tells the story of Moses. But if you pay attention, you're going to see some similarities. And it's going to actually give you a picture of what is happening today. So it says this. Then the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah, which means beauty, and the other named Puah, which means splendor. When you act as midwives to the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a son, you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, she shall live. But the midwives feared God with profound reverence and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded, but they let the boy babies live. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this thing and allowed the boy babies to live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth quickly, and their babies are born before the midwife can get to them." So God was good to the midwives, and the people of Israel were multiplied and became very strong. And because the midwives feared God, he established families and households for them. Then the Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every son who is born to the Hebrews must be thrown into the Nile." That's a river. That was the main river there beside Egypt. And then he said, "But every daughter you shall keep alive." Now I want to stop right here before we keep reading, and I need you to understand this part. This is so good. So the place where the enemy, let's say Pharaoh, he's the enemy, right? He's the oppressor in the situation to the people of God. And he wanted to kill off the children, right? This is a form of like what we've seen happen in our own nation, where the leadership wanted to kill off the children.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting part is it wasn't just like do it this way or do it that way. He basically said drown them in the river.
Yeah.
Throw them into the river, drown them because they can't swim, right? So they were to cast their children into the river. Now remember that, because we're going to come back to that point in just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep reading. In Exodus 2, it says, now a man of the house of Levi, which is the priestly tribe, went and took as his wife a daughter of Levi. The woman conceived and gave birth to a son. And when she saw that he was especially beautiful and healthy, she hid him for 3 months to protect him from the Egyptians. This coincides to what's happening with many people in their lives and what has been happening with the dark horses. When I talk about hidden ones, God has hidden his people for a season to protect them from the oppressor. There's a reason God has covered his people and hidden them under the shadow of his wing to protect them from what the enemy's been trying to do, not only in our nation, but the world and in the spirit realm. And what's actually happening, what people might think is, oh, I'm being held back or this or that, but it's actually a protection by the hand of God. He's hiding you for a season